My name's Caleb Mercer. I'm 34, a home contractor from Austin, Texas, the kind of guy who fixes other people's walls while his own life cracks apart. 2 months ago, I watched my wife, Vanessa, drive off in a black Escalade with the kids in the back, her lawyer's letter still warm on the counter. She got everything. The $22 million mansion, custody, and half the company we built from sweat, not inheritance. Everyone told me to move on, but you can't move on when something doesn't add up. That's when I found it in a manila envelope, wedged behind the bathroom mirror. Not addressed to me. Addressed to RG inside were 2 wedding rings, one hers, one I'd never seen, and a parking receipt from Houston, time-stamped 3 days before she left. And a note, written in her perfect handwriting. Same hotel. Same name. Don't call this time. That's when I realized my wife didn't just leave me. She'd been living 2 lives. And the deeper I dug, the darker it got because she wasn't just cheating. She was laundering millions through my company and signing my name to every lie. Tell me where you're watching from, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories of secrets, justice, and second chances. Her perfume still owned every room, but the house didn't belong to her anymore. I stood in the doorway of the $22 million mansion that used to be ours. The marble floors gleamed under the skylights and the chandelier hummed faintly from the air vent. I hadn't been inside since the day the court order gave everything to her, Vanessa Mercer, mother of my kids, now ex-wife, and queen of someone else's kingdom. I told the realtor I was only there to pick up my tools from the garage. He nodded politely, probably wondering what a construction guy was doing walking through a house like this. Truth is, I built half of it. Every beam, every polished stone, every wall that heard us fight behind designer furniture. The smell hit me first. Her perfume, sandalwood, and something floral still lingered. It clung to the drapes like a ghost that refused to move out. I ran a hand along the granite counter where we used to drink cheap wine before the world called us successful. 2 glasses sat there now, one with lipstick, one without. Beautiful property, the realtor said, forcing a smile. Her business partner handled the sale. Very professional. I looked at him. Business partner? Yeah, charming guy. Think his name started with an R. Something Garrison, maybe? My jaw tightened. I didn't answer. He kept talking, oblivious. He said he might stop by later to grab a few personal items. Said he was what did he call the real owner. The real owner. I walked deeper into the house, my boots echoing down the hallway. The music system blinked in standby. When I hit play, smooth jazz filled the room, Vanessa's least favorite genre. She used to mock it, said it sounded like elevator music for liars. So why was it still queued up now? That's when I saw a glint of silver by the sink. A lighter. Heavy, sleek, engraved with 2 simple letters. RG. Not mine, not hers. I turned it in my hand, the initials catching the light like a smirk I couldn't wipe away. My stomach twisted. Part fury, part confirmation of what I already knew deep down. She didn't just move on. She'd moved up into someone else's arms. Someone who thought he owned my life. The realtor cleared his throat. I'll, lock up behind you. Take your time. I nodded, but didn't move. I just stood there in that empty kitchen, staring at the lighter. For a second, I could almost see her reflection in the stainless steel fridge. Smiling that half-smile that used to make me weak before I realized it was practice for someone else. I slipped the lighter into my pocket and walked out without looking back. The door clicked shut behind me, sealing a chapter that was never really mine to begin with. But something about those initials burned hotter than the divorce papers ever did. RG. Whoever he was, he'd just lit the fuse. If you can't sleep, pay someone who doesn't. That's what my client told me a week after I found the lighter. He said it with a grin, like it was advice about fixing engines instead of lives. I thought about that line all night, staring at the ceiling fan in my 1-bedroom apartment, listening to the blades slice through the dark. By morning, I'd made up my mind. The next day, I met Eli Ross in a diner that looked like it hadn't changed since the 80s. He was in his late 40s, graying at the temples, the kind of man who could blend into any crowd and still notice everyone else first. He didn't bother with small talk, just slid his coffee aside and said, "So, Caleb Mercer, contractor, divorced, house gone, kids gone, But not done yet, huh? I pushed my phone across the table, showing him the photo of the silver lighter. Found it in my ex-wife's house. Engraved with R.G. Realtor, said the guy, claiming he was the real owner. Eli studied it, expression unreadable. R.G. That's not your initials. Not your lawyers. Could be a broker, could be a boyfriend. Could be both. He reached into his jacket, pulled out a small notebook, and scribbled something down. Rowan Grant, he muttered after a few seconds of silence. Luxury property dealer. Moves between Austin, Dallas, and Houston. Buys houses under shell companies, flips them for people who don't want their names attached. I blinked. So he's her business partner. Or her front man, Eli said. Question is, what's he hiding from her? I didn't have an answer, but I did have something else. I reached into my jacket and placed the manila envelope on the table, the same one I'd found behind the bathroom mirror. She left this behind, I said. Eli opened it slowly, like it might explode. Inside were 2 rings and a parking receipt from a Houston hotel. He turned it toward the light. 2 weeks before the divorce hearing, he said. Same day, she claimed to be visiting her sister in Dallas. He looked up. You still have her travel statements? I nodded. Yeah, everything she claimed I've got in writing. He smiled slightly. Good, that's where liars trip. Paper doesn't lie. The waitress came by, refilled our cups. Eli stared out the window while I stared at my reflection in the coffee. I didn't recognize the man looking back. By the time I left the diner, Eli already had a plan. Give me 48 hours, he said, slipping the envelope into his coat. If she's been living 2 lives, one of them's bound to leave footprints. 2 days later, I got a call. No greeting, no hesitation. Just 3 words. You need to see this. When I arrived at his office, the blinds were drawn, the air thick with cigarette smoke. Eli clicked play on a grainy hotel security feed. The footage showed Vanessa's wife stepping out of an elevator, wearing sunglasses and a smile I hadn't seen in years. She handed a keycard to the concierge. The name on the screen read, Lena Cross. My heart stopped. My wife wasn't just cheating. She was someone else entirely. The woman in the video smiled like my wife, but her eyes belonged to a stranger. I watched the footage again, slower this time. Vanessa, or Lena Cross, as the hotel registry called him, stepped out of the elevator, turned toward the camera, and smiled. Same tilt of the head, same red lipstick, but the softness I used to know was gone. Her expression was precise, practiced like someone who'd rehearsed lying for a living. Eli hit pause and leaned back in his chair. She's using an alias tied to that Houston address. I called the hotel pretending to confirm a renovation bid. They still have her on record. So what now? I asked. Now, he said, reaching for his coat, we go get what she left behind. The next afternoon, we pulled up to the Grand Royal Houston, a 5-star hotel that looked like it only served people allergic to honesty. Eli wore his best, I'm too busy to be questioned face. I carried a clipboard and a fake badge that said Ross and Mercer Repairs. The lobby smelled like money, a blend of cologne, champagne, and secrets. Eli strolled to the front desk like he owned the place. Afternoon, he said smoothly. We're with maintenance services, here for the suite remodel audit. Management said you'd have the files. The young clerk hesitated. Audit? I don't see anything. Eli slid a folded paper across the counter. It wasn't official, but it looked like it. Corporate sent the clearance directly. The clerk blinked, then nodded nervously. Right, you'll want the storage locker, sir. Some items were never claimed by the last tenant. Suite 805. Name, Lena Cross. That name hit me like a wrench to the ribs. A few minutes later, we were in the hotel's storage basement. Rows of tagged bags lined the shelves, forgotten things left by people rich enough to forget them. Eli's flashlight beam landed on one, Cross, L. The bag was small, black leather, and light in my hands. I unzipped it carefully. Inside was a folded designer dress, pale blue, smelling faintly of her perfume. But something felt off. The stitching along the hem was thicker than usual, uneven. I tugged gently and the fabric opened like a secret. Inside the seam were bank deposit slips, dozens of them folded and pressed flat. Eli whistled low. Well, that's creative. Hide the money trail in fashion, classy, and criminal. We spread them across the table. Some slips showed wire transfers to names I didn't recognize. Others went to shell corporations with vague initials. Then I saw one that made my stomach twist. The sender's name, Mercer Renovations LLC, my company. My signature. I picked it up with shaking hands. These look real, I whispered. They are, Eli said quietly. Someone's been funneling money through your business accounts. The basement light flickered. My pulse hammered. That's when I realized the truth. My wife wasn't just living a double life. She was laundering her lies through mine. Every lie leaves paperwoo if you know where to look. I waited until after midnight before heading to the office. Mercer Renovations, the company Vanessa and I built from our kitchen table, still had my name on the door, though technically it wasn't mine anymore. Her lawyers made sure of that. But old habits die hard, and my fingerprints were on every screw in that building. The parking lot was empty except for a janitor's van and a flickering streetlight that made the whole place look haunted by numbers. I slipped in through the back door using the spare key no one knew I'd kept. Inside, the air smelled like printer ink and betrayal. The desks were still arranged the same way I'd left hers at the front, mine against the window. I sat in my old chair and turned on the lamp. Stacks of folders lined the shelves, color-coded and immaculate. Too immaculate. Vanessa never filed anything that neatly in her life. I pulled a random file, flipped it open. Fake invoices. Foreign contractors I'd never hired. Payments sent to offshore accounts under names like RG Consulting and Havenbrook Holdings. Each stamp, each signature forged in my handwriting. My pulse spiked. This wasn't just about betrayal. This was a setup. I went through drawer after drawer, the sound of paper scraping against wood louder than my breathing. Then I noticed the photo on her desk, a silver frame holding a perfect. Lie, me, Vanessa, and the kids at the ranch 2 summers ago. The kind of photo that screams happiness to everyone who doesn't know the context. Something about it felt heavier. I flipped it over and saw a piece of tape running along the back panel. I peeled it away carefully. Behind the photo, stuck to the cardboard, was a micro SD card no bigger than a fingernail. My stomach turned. Why hide that? I slid it into my phone's adapter and hit play. The screen stayed black, but the sound came through clearly. Vanessa's voice was sharp, cold, and familiar. "You said this would stay buried, Rowan," she hissed. "He's not stupid. He's already asking questions." Then a man's voice, calm, smug, Rowan Grant, the initials from the lighter. "He won't find proof," Rowan said. "He's too busy pitying himself. Just make sure the accounts stay balanced." Vanessa's tone cracked for the first time. "And if he does find out?" A pause. Then Rowan's voice dropped lower. "If he ever finds out, we use the kids." My blood froze. The air in the room seemed to vanish. For a long time, I just sat there, staring at nothing, the faint hum of the computer fan filling the silence. My hands trembled as I pulled the card out and pocketed it. The woman I once promised forever had turned me into collateral. And now, the only thing louder than my heartbeat was the decision forming in my chest. They wanted to play dirty? I could dig deeper. The voicemail came at 2 a.m. 3 words. "Stop digging, Caleb." I sat up in bed, the dark pressing against the windows. The message replayed once before cutting to silence, and that silence was somehow worse. No number, no caller ID, just a voice distorted through static. I didn't sleep after that. By sunrise, I was in Eli's office, sliding my phone across his cluttered desk. He listened once, jaw tightening, then played it again. "You recognize the voice?" he asked. I shook my head. Could be Rowan. It could be one of her lawyers. Whoever it is, they know I'm looking. Eli's fingers flew over his keyboard. "Prepaid burner," he muttered. "Pinged off a tower 3 miles from your ex-wife's gated community." My stomach sank. So she knows I'm on to her. He leaned back, lighting a cigarette. Or someone wants you to think she does. Either way, it's time we stop guessing and start watching. That evening, we parked across from her neighborhood, my truck idling low, headlights off. The streetlights glowed against wet asphalt. At 9:17 p.m., Vanessa's Escalade rolled past the gate alone. She didn't head home. She drove downtown. Eli followed in silence, keeping 2 cars behind. "Wherever she's going," he said, "she doesn't want company." 15 minutes later, she pulled into the back lot of a half-finished commercial complex. A single car waited there, a sleek black Mercedes. Rowan Grant stepped out, his suit catching the glow of a nearby street lamp. Vanessa climbed out, wearing a scarf and sunglasses, even though it was night. They didn't hug, didn't even touch. She just handed him something small and black. He opened it under the light notebook, leather-bound edges worn. He flipped through a few pages, then nodded. Eli lifted the camera lens. "That, my friend," he whispered, "is your smoking gun." We waited until they drove off before approaching. When we checked the lot, they'd left nothing behind but tire marks and cigarette ash. But the image of that black notebook burned into my brain. "She's keeping ledgers," Eli said. "Coded ones, the kind smugglers use. Each page probably ties names, accounts, or amounts to the same shell companies you found." I exhaled hard, hands gripping the steering wheel. "If that book surfaces, I'm done. My name's already on half those fake invoices." "Then we find it first," he said. I started the truck, headlights still off, heart pounding with equal parts fear and fury. In the rearview mirror, the Mercedes taillights flashed once as it turned the corner, almost like a signal. Then, for a split second, Vanessa's face appeared in her side mirror. Her eyes locked on my truck. She froze, and then she hit the gas. The Mercedes followed. Tires screamed against asphalt as they vanished into the night, leaving me staring. At the empty road, the echo of their engines fading into the dark. The warning wasn't to scare me. It was a message. They knew I was closing in. Her handwriting looked like love letters until I realized they were coordinates. I spread the pages across Eli's desk. The black notebook Vanessa handed to Rowan was a maze of symbols, arrows, and cursive notes that almost looked tender if you didn't know what they meant. Each line felt like an intimate betrayal disguised as ink. Eli called in a favor from someone who lived for decoding lies. Mara Liu, a paralegal who moonlighted as a data analyst. She had the kind of mind that could see patterns in chaos. Within an hour, she'd turned my wife's poetry into math. "These aren't messages," she said, pointing at a looping column of numbers. "They're coordinates." "Coordinates for what?" I asked. She pulled up a map on her laptop and entered one pair. A red pin dropped in North Austin. "Construction site," she murmured. Another pair, a second pin, another job site, one of mine. Then a third, a fourth. Every single coordinate matched a Mercer renovations project. "They used your legitimate contracts as covers," Mara said. "Money goes in for remodeling, comes out through offshore accounts, the perfect laundering loop." I leaned closer, scanning the scribbles. "And these numbers here?" "Not dates," she said. "Measurements." Eli frowned. "What kind of measurements?" Mara reached for one of the rolled-up blueprints from my truck, smoothing it flat under the lamp. "See this? 14.8 feet, 32.5. Now look, she's written those exact figures beside each coordinate." Eli's eyes widened. "You're telling me the blueprints hide bank info?" Mara nodded, her voice low. "The account numbers are hidden in the measurements. Every project she approved had a layer of math concealing the money trail." The room felt smaller suddenly. Every wall I'd built, every home I'd restored, and all of it had been turned into a front for her crimes. I rubbed my hands over my face. She used my work like camouflage. Eli tapped the map again. "One pin's missing. What's this last coordinate?" Mara entered it, and her screen zoomed in on an industrial district just outside the city, a storage facility. "Warehouse," she said quietly. Unit 309, leased under the name Caleb Mercer. My heart dropped. That's impossible. I don't lease anything. Eli looked at me, then at Mara. Looks like someone is using your identity. For a long moment, no one spoke. The hum of the ceiling fan filled the silence like a ticking clock. Mara shut her laptop slowly. If she's keeping assets or documents anywhere, that's where they'll be. I nodded, pulse hammering. Then that's where we're going. Eli smirked grimly. You ready to see what your name's been paying for? I stared at the last red pin on the map, my name stamped on a lie I didn't mackey, and felt the truth settle like concrete. Whatever waited inside that warehouse, it wasn't just evidence. It was everything she'd built on my back. You can't hide the smell of bleach and guilt. The warehouse loomed ahead like a sleeping animal, silent, dark, and dangerous if startled. Eli parked a block away while I cut through the chain-link fence. The lock on Unit 309 wasn't even scratched. Whoever leased it wanted it to look untouched. I slid the door open, and the air hit me chemically, sharp, mixed with the faint sweetness of old wood, bleach, and something worse beneath it. I clicked on my flashlight, the beam cutting through dust and shadow. Stacks of crates lined the walls, each marked with fake shipping labels, donations for global relief. The smell grew stronger near the center, where a tarp covered several large boxes. I pulled one open. Inside were antique vases, portraits, and silverware, all tagged with auction stickers. Stolen. Each one is worth more than my yearly salary. Eli's voice came through the earpiece, steady but tense. You seeing this? Yeah, I whispered. It's a museum of theft. We found rows of cash bundles wrapped in plastic, unmarked bills stacked neatly inside a crate labeled Children's Housing Fund. My stomach turned. Vanessa hadn't just laundered money, she'd done it under the name of charity. And then the gut punch. Framed photos of you, me, her, the kids smiling at company charity events. Our faces, our names used as the mask for her crime. I felt something in me snap. She used my kids, Eli. She used them to make this look clean. Before he could answer, a faint mechanical click echoed through the rafters. Then another. Tiny red dots flickered to life in the corners of the ceiling. Security cameras, recording, watching. She's got eyes in here, Eli muttered through the earpiece. Get out now. I scanned the floor until I spotted a control panel near the entrance. A live feed displayed multiple angles of every movement we made, time-stamped. The footage wasn't being stored locally. It was streaming. Someone was watching us in real time. I stepped closer and froze. The monitor flashed with a new feed of my own truck parked outside the gate. A voice came through the speaker, distorted but unmistakable. Didn't I tell you to stop digging, Caleb? Rowan. I ripped the cable out of the wall, sparks snapping as the screen went black. They're here, I hissed. Eli cursed. We've got company 2 vehicles inbound. You've got less than a minute. I swept the documents off a nearby desk, ledgers, receipts, fake IDs, and stuffed them into my backpack. Every second stretched thin. Then the sound hit. Sirens. Dozens of them closing fast. Eli shouted, "They called you in!" My heart thudded against my ribs. What? They reported a break-in under your name. You're the suspect. Flashing red and blue lights bled through the cracks in the door. Tires screeched. A bullhorn blared my name. I sprinted toward the back exit, lungs burning, boots echoing on concrete. Behind me, the sirens grew louder, the warehouse flooding with light. I'd come to uncover her lies, but now her lies were coming for me. They arrested the wrong husband on purpose. The sirens had barely stopped when I found myself in an interrogation room that smelled like coffee, sweat, and metal. My wrists itched where the cuffs had been. Across the table sat Detective Vance, a man built like a question mark, always leaning in, always doubting. He dropped a folder in front of me. You were caught trespassing on private property. Warehouse registered under your name. Inside, stolen antiques, unmarked cash, fake charity accounts. Care to explain that, Mr. Mercer? I stared at the mirrored wall behind him, trying to steady my voice. "It's not my warehouse. Someone used my name." "Convenient," he said. "Your wife filed an affidavit this morning claiming you embezzled company funds and laundered them through construction sites." I almost laughed, but it came out hollow. My wife? The same woman who's been lying to the IRS and sleeping under an alias. Vance's pen paused mid-tap. "Big accusation, Mercer. Got proof?" Before I could answer, the door opened. Eli stepped in, calm as a man walking into Sunday Mass. "Yeah, he does." He set a tablet on the table and hit play. The video showed my garage the timestamp from the night of the alleged warehouse break-in. There I was, covered in grease, replacing a transmission while the radio droned in the background. Eli looked at the detective. "That's 8:41 p.m. The call reporting him at the warehouse came in at 8:47. Unless my guy can teleport, he's clean." Vance leaned forward, replaying the footage, zooming in on the clock hanging above my workbench. "Timestamp checks out," he muttered. He scribbled something on his notepad, his posture shifting. I could see the doubt setting in the small crack in his certainty. He turned to me. "You're saying your wife and this Rowan Grant set you up?" "I'm saying they built an entire empire on stolen money, and when I got close, they flipped the script. I was never their partner, Detective. I was their fall guy." Vance rubbed his chin. "That kind of setup takes power. Lawyers, banks, friends in high places. Then start looking higher," Eli said quietly. Vance sighed, closing the folder. "You're lucky your friend showed up. For now, you're free to go. But I'd stay in town if I were you." He stood, gathering the evidence. As he reached the door, a uniformed officer stepped in, holding a small padded envelope. "Sir, this just came in a courier drop. No sender." Vance frowned and tore it open. Inside was a small flash drive, black, unmarked, except for a label written in shaky pen. "For Isla. Truth inside." He turned it over in his hand. "Who's Isla?" He asked no one in particular. Eli and I exchanged a glance. I didn't know the name, but the way his voice dropped told me whoever Isla was, she mattered. Vance pocketed the drive, his expression unreadable. "We're not done here," he said. And in that instant, I knew something had shifted. The frame-up was cracking, just not in the way I expected. Sometimes evidence confesses for you. Detective Vance's office was dim except for the glow of his monitor. He'd locked the door the second Eli and I walked in. On his desk sat the unmarked flash drive, the one labeled "For Isla. Truth inside." Vance inserted it carefully like it might explode. The first file that opened wasn't a document. It was a voice recording. Rowan Grant's voice filled the room, sharp, arrogant, and chillingly familiar. "Vanessa, the Cayman accounts are ready. Once Caleb's locked up, we move the assets under your trust. After that, there's nothing left to trace." I froze. My wife's voice followed, calm and cold. "Good. He'll sign whatever I put in front of him once he's desperate enough." He always does. Every syllable cut deeper than the last. They weren't just plotting to take my companionship. They were plotting to destroy me completely. Eli leaned forward. "Holy hell. These are phone backups. Someone intercepted his call logs, voicemails, everything." The next file played a series of short clips. Bank details, private discussions, and one that made Vance go still. It was Rowan again, bragging. "Even if the cops dig, we've got leverage. Her ex's name is on all the paperwork. He's the perfect patsy." Vance shut the laptop, staring at me. "These records, if they EAL, are enough to bury both of them." "They're real," I said, voice trembling with restrained fury. "Every word. You wanted motive. There it is. She used me as the shield for her crimes." For a moment, the only sound in the room was the hum of the air conditioner. Vance leaned back, rubbing his temples. "The drive was sent anonymously," he said. "No fingerprints. No metadata. Whoever this Ela is, she wanted this to land in the right hands." Eli crossed his arms. "So what now?" Vance's expression hardened. "Now we flip the game." He pulled out his phone and opened Rowan Grant's contact profile, apparently one they'd cloned from the intercepted data. "We send her a message," he said. "Something only he would say. Something that'll make her come to us." I watched as he typed, thumbs deliberate, eyes sharp. Meet me where it started. He pressed send. Eli glanced at me. Where it started. I knew instantly. The lake house. The one we bought when life still looked like love. Where we'd celebrated our 10th anniversary. Where everything began and where it would end. Vance slid the phone across the table, his voice steady. If she bites, we'll have surveillance ready. You'll get your truth, Mercer, but it might break you before it saves you. I looked at the black screen, her reply bubble already blinking. After months of lies, silence finally had something to say. The restaurant smelled like betrayal and expensive wine. I sat at the rooftop bar, cufflinks glinting under the amber lights. One of them wasn't jewelry. It was a live feed microphone wired straight to Detective Vance's van across the street. Every word she said would be recorded, streamed, and ready to destroy her lies. The place hadn't changed since that night 5 years ago. The same skyline view, the same marble bar, the same song humming through the speakers. This was where Vanessa met Rowan for the first time, back when she still wore my last name and smiled like it meant something. At 7:58 p.m., she walked in. Her hair was pinned up, her dress black and deliberate. When she spotted the man she thought was Rowan sitting near the far end, she hesitated only a moment before striding over. Vance's decoy, wearing a wire beneath a crisp suit, didn't look up from his glass. The earpiece in her ear blinked faintly with a direct line to what she believed was Rowan waiting nearby. I heard her voice through the feed. You shouldn't have called me. It's too risky. Vance whispered into my hidden mic. Stay calm. She thinks she's talking to him. The decoy's voice came through a pre-recorded patch of Rowan's speech, perfectly AI filtered. We need to clean up what's left. The detective's getting suspicious. Vanessa leaned in, her tone low and urgent. Don't pin this on me. I did what you told me, set Caleb up, sold the antiques, and moved the cash. If it falls apart, it's on you. My hands clenched beneath the tablecloth. Every syllable was a confession, every word a match against the fuse of my patience. Vance's van crackled with tension. We got her. Keep her talking. The decoy spoke again, calm and clipped. The cops found the recordings, Vanessa. You know what that means. Her face blanched. They can't prove anything. I destroyed the ledgers. No, said the fake Rowan's voice. You didn't. Her breathing quickened. She reached into her purse, pulling out a folded note. Then I'm done. You promised we'd be gone by now, offshore, clean. And then the air changed. A low hum of tension rolled through the rooftop. The elevator chimed. The real Rowan Grant stepped out. He was paler than I remembered, eyes flicking from Vanessa to the decoy, realization dawning in an instant. His voice cut through the chatter like glass. What the hell is this? Vanessa froze. The color drained from her face as she looked from one Rowan to the other and then to me, half hidden in the corner booth. Grant's hand moved fast. His coat shifted and I saw the glint of metal. Gun! Vance shouted through the comms. The restaurant erupted into chaos. Guests screamed. Tables overturned. And in the middle of it all, Rowan aimed straight at me. The trap had worked, but so had his rage. Truth spreads faster than gunpowder. The moment Rowan drew his weapon, the rooftop bar transformed into a war zone. Shouts collided with sirens, the music cut mid-note, and glass rained down like ice. I dove behind a table as a shot tore through a wine bottle, spraying red across the white tablecloth like blood on snow. Drop it! Vance's voice roared through the comms. The next second, SWAT officers burst through the stairwell doors, black armor and floodlights swallowing the chaos. Rowan spun toward the noise, gun trembling. Vanessa screamed, her heels slipping as she backed into a pillar. Put it down! One officer yelled again. Rowan's eyes found mine through the smoke of spilled liquor and panic. You think this makes you a hero, Mercer? He spat. She used us both! Another shot was fired wildly, panicked. The bullet shattered the chandelier, raining glass like glittering shrapnel. I covered my head, heart pounding, the sound of boots and shouted commands closing in. Then it was over. A flash grenade burst white, and by the time my vision cleared, Rowan Grant was on the floor, hands zip-tied, gun kicked out of reach. His expensive suit was torn, his mask of control finally cracked. Vanessa knelt beside him, tears streaking her makeup. "Rowan, please say something." He glared at her, jaw tight. "You did this," he hissed. Vance stepped forward, calm as ever, recorder in hand. "No, you both did this." He nodded to an officer. A small speaker clicked on, filling the room with Vanessa's voice, the confession she'd whispered to the fake Rowan minutes earlier. "I did what you told me to set Caleb up, sold the antiques, and moved the cash. If it falls apart, it's on you." The sound echoed off the broken glass and concrete. Every officer in the room froze. Even Vanessa's sobs stopped mid-breath. She looked up at me, horror dawning as she realized her own words were the evidence. "That's a lie," she stammered. "That was taken out of context." Vance folded his arms. "Context won't help you in court." She lunged for him, desperate, mascara smearing across her cheeks. "You don't understand, he threatened me." Rowan laughed bitterly. "You begged to join me." "Enough," Vance ordered. "Both of you are under arrest for fraud, money laundering, conspiracy, and attempted murder." Officers pulled them apart, their voices rising in a chorus of denial and blame. I just stood there, silent, the chaos fading to a hum in my ears. Months of confusion, humiliation, and doubt, all of it was dissolving in the sharp smell of gunpowder and justice. As the team escorted Rowan past me, something fell from his pocket. A small, folded photograph. Vance stooped, picked it up, and his brow furrowed. He turned toward me, his voice low but steady. "Mercer, you'll want to see what was in his pocket." The light caught the edge of the photo. "Oh?" And whatever truth was printed, there wasn't finished burning yet. Some receipts don't list prices, as they list sins. When Vance unfolded the slip of paper from Rowan's pocket, I thought it was just another hotel tab or expense record. But the longer he stared, the quieter the room got. Finally, he handed it to me. It wasn't a purchase, as it was a trust fund receipt. A cashier's confirmation for an account opened 2 weeks before my arrest. The beneficiaries: my children, Ellie and Jonah Mercer. At first, it almost seemed kind until I saw the signature. My name. My handwriting. But not mine. The account wasn't meant for the kids. It was meant to take them. Vanessa had planned everything. A legal trust in my name, paperwork to make her their guardian once I was convicted, and flight details to Zurich hidden in the transaction notes. She hadn't just wanted money. She wanted custody, control, and a clean exit with a new identity. "Forgery, kidnapping intent, financial fraud," Vance murmured, scanning the fine print. She was going to vanish for good. The irony hit her. She'd left a receipt for her own downfall. In the weeks that followed, the truth spread faster than her lawyers could contain it. Rowan's files and Vanessa's confession painted a complete picture. Laundering, falsified contracts, and the staged betrayal meant to ruin me. Federal agents froze every joint account. Court documents reversed custody within days. For the first time since the Escalade pulled away, my home didn't echo with silence. It echoed with my children's laughter. The prosecutors called it one of the most elaborate marital frauds they'd ever seen. I called it closure. Vanessa pled guilty to multiple counts and faced years in federal prison. Rowan's plea deal turned into testimony, sealing their fate. I didn't want revenge. I wanted restoration. So, I sold the mansion, liquidated the remaining assets, and used part of the recovered fortune to create the Mercer Homes Foundation, a network that helps single fathers start over. Men who've been blindsided, broken, or betrayed but still show up for their kids. The first branch opened in Austin, the same city where my life had fallen apart. Now it's where it's being rebuilt. Sometimes I walk past the office window at night and see the reflection of a man I barely recognize. Still scarred, still healing, but standing. They stole my family, my company, my name, but the truth rebuilt everything they burned. And this time, I'm the one holding the blueprints. Betrayal builds fast, but truth is the only structure that never collapses. Subscribe for more stories of secrets, justice, and second chances.